Radio Company invites you to another episode, another adventure, another lesson in raising living encores, a new generation for the Stanley Jones legacy, brought to you by the Radio School. Greetings, friends. Once again, this is Stan for the Stanley Jones Radio School. And we're continuing on our mission to raise up living encores. And today I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about that, but in the framework of a new book. Yeah, Beacons of Grace, Reflections on Grief and Faith, by someone many of you know, Roberto Escamilla. Absolutely. I have had the privilege this past weekend of reading through this wonderful little book. I've learned a lot, and I've engaged in some new and different ways in terms of my understanding of Stanley Jones. And I think you should join me. So if you'll give me a few minutes today and take some time to think about Beacons of Grace with Roberto Escamilla, and how that results in maybe even more emphasis on raising up living encores. So, welcome to the program. Yes, in effect, many of us who have been very strongly influenced by the work of Stanley Jones, and that's many of you. Now, for some of you, like Roberto, yes, Roberto not only was influenced by him, but he was inspired by him, inspirited by him, and mentored personally by him. And of course, that has given birth to a whole lifetime of work, being in effect what you might call the second generation of men and women who followed in and carried on the spirit of Stanley Jones. There are a number of those who are actually also in that, who, like Anne Matthews Eunice, of course, the granddaughter of Stanley Jones. And I think of Maxie Dunham. I think of Robert Tuttle. I think of a number of you who have actually told me that even though you weren't really ever able to have a personal encounter, or certainly not a relational encounter, that discovering his work in both your life and your business and your ministry, you are also a second generation, maybe a little bit of a third generation of people who want to be living encores of the work of Stanley Jones. Now, that's what this whole program is all about. And many of you are involved in organizations like the Ashram movement. Many of you are involved with Anne and the wonderful people at the Stanley Jones Foundation. And many of you may have some connection to the East Stanley Jones School of Global Mission, which is located in Asbury Seminary. And of course, the whole tradition has oftentimes, as some would say, has seeped in, infiltrated, maybe kind of sucked up by a number of individuals throughout primarily the Wesleyan, but also very strongly in the Anglican traditions. And it has rallied around not only the man himself, but his fundamental mission, which was not denominational, not necessarily theological. It was, as many of you know, it's about Jesus. And what he did as he went to India with Mabel, and in an extraordinary, powerful, and incredible partnership, brought the living word, which is Jesus, into the people of India. And they did it well. And it's carrying on today. And we're grateful for that work and that opportunity. And so that's where we are. And so I would encourage you, as I read through the book by Roberto, not only as he deals with his own personal grief of losing his dear partner and wife after 70 years. As one of my friends said, it may not be a record, but it's above average. And then thinking that even though he had preached and spoke and ministered, he found himself going through grief, deep grief. And he had known people who had done that, but for himself to be in that particular situation and find out how deep and difficult it was, and then to ask the Spirit of God, the Spirit of Jesus, to come to him and give him new and renewed insights into what it means to be a follower of the Lord Jesus. I do remember, and it was kind of a sad experience a number of years ago when I was on the mission field in Trans World Radio working, and I got to know one of the senior pastors who came down to work with us. He had retired from the ministry, and he was there now to help with the work of the ministry in a foreign land. And later on, I got to meet him at a reunion. And in the meantime, what had happened is that his wife had become an invalid, and she was now very much in a care facility. And he went on and told about how when he retired, he'd had plenty of revenue and money and savings. And he thought, well, I'm pretty well set. But now this had taken up so much of his time and energy and much of his money. He said this, he said, Stan, it was sure a lot easier to preach about faith than sometimes having to actually live it. And I thought about that, and I think about that a lot. He did well, and he was able to finish well, but it was not easy. It was not easy. So what I'm encouraging you to do is not only do we talk about beacons of grace, but we also not only talk about, the lighthouse, but as Roberto points out, that old song, sometimes it's the lower lights, the ones on the reefs, the ones where it's dangerous, where we also find inspiration. It's not just the lighthouse. Let the lower lights be burning. Please go to Amazon, reach out to the people at the United Christian Ashram, reach out to the Stanley Jones Foundation, because that then helps the foundation if you buy it with that relationship. Please, I would very much say, don't go through this summer at all, through maybe even your retreats. Make this one of the books. And there's another one, but I'll just recommend this one right now, Beacons of Grace, Reflections on Grief and Faith by Pastor, Mentor, Encore, Roberto Escamilla. Now, here's how I'm going to use this book. I'm going to make this one of the fundamental books that when we now go out and try to raise up younger men and women, as we said, a lot of us are second and maybe third generation encores, but now we're going to need fourth and fifth generation encores. And I want particularly to bring this to younger men and women of the Indian events, the Indian diaspora, the country of India, that they, though he died before they were, before they were even born, to introduce them to the wit and the wisdom and the mind and the message and the teaching of Stanley Jones. One of the things I'm going to suggest they do is start with the beacon. Start with beacons of grace. And let that be maybe their first introduction. And then they'll flow into some of the books. And this is what I've asked many of you to do. Of the number of books, some of you have your favorites, don't you? Yeah, they're all very, very good. And the devotionals are wonderful. But, there's some of us that particularly, I particularly am deeply moved by Poise and Power. And it's not poison power, it's poise and power. And that is true for many of you. You have books that you would say, well, start with this one or read this one. But this will certainly be one written by a second generation encore for those in the third and fourth and fifth generation encores, as he kind of gives a magnum opus, you might say. He's written a number of books, but this is now the one after going through not only a lifetime of service, but a lifetime that went through some severe and difficult times of grief. And grief can kill everything. Remember that. That's why Jesus came in so many ways. In many of us who are in the liturgy, remember that some of the recent reading was, of course, Lazarus, the Jesus who walked into the grief. And that was a way that he performed probably the essence of his miracles, which we all now celebrate, that because of Jesus, we all can be raised from the dead. And that we all experience not only a fully aliveness in this life, but as we say, how to be fully alive forever. I also will just conclude with this idea. When I take my morning walks, I oftentimes say, Lord, this is the broadcaster in me. I'm always looking for ways to make things simpler or to kind of give an edge to it. And I was going through some difficult times lately. And, I said, okay, what's this all about? And all of a sudden, it seemed that the Lord said to me, Stan, S-I-S-I-S. And then it came to me, Stan, school is still in session. That's right. The school of learning, the school of faith. There are no graduations until the ultimate one, but school is always in session. We are always seeking and finding new ways to learn. And this would certainly be a way to kind of celebrate the fact that indeed the Spirit of God is saying to us, no matter how much wisdom and strength and faith we think we have, S-I-S-I-S. Remember, school is still in session. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your 15 minutes. I'm very grateful for that. Please reach out to me, stan@witradio.net, stan@witradio.net, and I'm going to thank you, some of you right now. We received some very, very nice contributions to the project, and I will be opening up in contact with a number of the churches in particularly my own area that actually are Indian people. The community, it's Indian people. There's a lot of them here in the Raleigh-Durham area. And actually being in touch with them and their younger congregations and seeing as they would like to be a part of the Stanley Jones Living Encore, a new generation for the Stanley Jones legacy. Thank you for helping support us with that. Contributions to the Stanley Jones Foundation for that, or if you'd like to help directly the organization, which we call the Christian Entrepreneur Network, which is my organization, which is very much being a part of raising up. See, Stanley Jones was a unique missionary. He was an encore entrepreneur. He was not just a missionary who went out and raised support. He actually raised his own support by the work and the entrepreneurial efforts that he had. He was an entrepreneur. So the Christian Entrepreneur Network. Please, I'm grateful, and we appreciate your support and your recommendations. We wish you all the best and blessings, and we'll be back in touch hopefully soon. Please share this with many others, and particularly if you have friends who know these younger men and women of Indian descent who might be a part of this wonderful encore operation. Please recommend them to us. Please suggest them to us. Please encourage them to reach out to us. We would be grateful. Till next time, all the best and blessings, and Lord bless you and keep you. Bye for now.